So you've got another thing coming. How many people heard that when they were growing up?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, you got another thing coming. The other one that my mom's favorite thing was, if you think that you can get away with that, you can just think again.
Yeah.
Just think again. Well, we can. But before I go more deeply into the subject of thought, I have a little story I want to tell about a fellow. He went into a bank with a check to cash. And he starts talking to the teller, and the teller says, you know, I'll be happy to cash it for you, but you have to sign it first. You have to endorse the check. You have to sign it on the back. And he says, no, why should I trust you? I give you the check signed. You could do anything with it. You give me the money first, then well, how about if I sign it after? I promise I will. And they went back and forth. She says, no, you can't do it. We don't do it that way. You've got to sign it first. And he goes, no, I don't trust you. I don't, you know, there's no reason to do it. And they go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Finally, the woman says, if you're going to be this way, you're going to have to go to another bank. So he proceeds to leave and go to another bank. Goes up to a teller. Same thing happens. I want this check signed. Please sign it. I'm not going to sign it. Go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth again. And the second teller says, you're going to have to go to another bank. So he finally goes to a third bank. And again he goes in and says, will you cash the check? And the mail teller says, no, I can't sign it till you can't cash it until you sign it. And he says, I want my check cashed. And I want it cashed first, and then I'll sign it. And he goes, no, and they go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Finally, the teller's had enough of this jerk. So he reaches underneath and he grabs the baseball bat he has underneath the counter and he brings it out and he bonks the guy in the head. Sign the check. So the guy signs the check and gets his money. He goes back to the first bank. And he says to the teller, see, I got my money. And she says, I bet that you had to sign it first. He said, yes, I did. And she said, well? And he said, well, you didn't explain it. The way the other guy did. So I'm hoping to explain it better this morning. We didn't explain it the same way you did. Okay. So what is thought? What is it to think? We do it. What is it? It's not something we can see or touch, yet it exists. So I want to explain this in the right way. I don't want any baseball bats coming out at me. I want to make it clear, though, this morning that the principles that I'm going to talk about, the principles and the practices that I talk about here are principles and practices that have transformed my life. I talk from my own experience, and I don't expect anyone to accept it wholesale. I just ask you to be open and suspend your disbelief until afterwards. What is a thought? What does it mean to think? It seems to be a nebulous, hard to define thing in a way, but I know someone once told me that a thought is something that will get you into trouble if you speak it aloud. I don't know if that's the totality of it, but I remember someone said that to me once. Synonyms for thought, we have lots of words, We have thought, we have brainchild, vision, concept, notion, many more. For thinking, the noun, we have ponder, reflect, deliberate, consider, meditate, contemplate, muse, ruminate. We have a lot. So, actually, I looked it up and there are two possible definitions of a thought. I was surprised to see this. Either it's a part of the material world, a physical patterns of electricity generated by the neurons of our brains, or it's part of something else, some kind of cosmic consciousness that floats around the universe, completely undetectable by the instruments of modern science. And I thought about this, and I believe it's both. I think it's both. I think it's part of a cosmic consciousness facilitated by our brains. How about that? So, what is thinking? The act of producing a thought or arriving at a thought or conceiving a thought. And thoughts are a product of mind. Equally hard to define mind, because I think mind is bigger than brains too. Mind isn't merely comprised of the matter of our brain. So who or what is doing the thinking? Who or what is doing the thinking? Now, René Descartes famously said, Je pense donc je suis. I think, therefore I am. Reminds me of a poster I saw in St. Augustine that says, I presume, therefore I may be. Are we our thoughts? No, we are not our thoughts. We are the thinker who thinks the thoughts. And what is feeling? Is feeling a thought? We can never have a feeling without some thought attendant to it, and we can never have a thought without some feeling coming with it. Rarely. If we have to separate these two conditions, although they're made up of the same substance, though, and think about thought and feeling separately for a minute, we can see that any thought or image or elemental needs for its continuous life a cohesive power, the power of feeling, which means it must have in itself feeling and desire. And I want to talk about that today. The fellow who wrote that particular passage also said, what will be gained of this study? You will find out who you are and what you are. You will become the master of mind matter. You'll be able to change and reshape them, your mind emotions and mind thoughts. Then you'll become the master of your mind as reasonable thought, not allowing you to become a slave of your emotions. Then you'll become master of your life, of your destiny. And I know we talked about the Hindu thing that I'm very, very fond of, that says, watch your thoughts, for thoughts become words. Watch your words, because words become words become thoughts. Watch your thoughts, because thoughts become words. Watch your words, because your words become actions. Watch your actions, because they become your character. And watch your character, because it becomes your destiny. I think that's powerful. I saw that in a high school classroom. I was so thrilled to see it in a high school classroom the first time I saw it, and I loved it. It is true. So thoughts apparently then are powerful because they precipitate, if it's the beginning of everything, and that is really what the word in the Bible, logos, means. The word was with God. The word was logos, which is a bigger thing than word. It's really thought evolving into word. So thought is powerful. It is especially powerful when backed by emotion. We were talking this morning in the theological, and I didn't sit through all of it. I'm sure it got even more excited when I left. I don't know if I mean that. Anyway, but we were talking about the question of predetermination versus choice versus karma. And it was an interesting conversation because you might want to ask yourself what you think those three things, how they play in your lives and how much, what percentage of it is really influencing you. And I said my thought about predetermination is that we are born into the human race, and we are born into a human collective consciousness, if you will. That is the history of all thought and belief, and evolved to whatever point it is at the point of our birth, and we are partaking of that. And then I also believe, however, that as individual consciousness, we have the choice to embark on an adventure in consciousness, which is life, in which we hopefully evolve and grow into greater awareness and a little smidgen of wisdom, maybe. And that's my desire for everyone. A lot of wisdom is my desire for everyone, actually. We can look at our lives, and if we're honest with ourselves, our lives are a clear record of the patterns of our thinking, not thinking here, belief down here. They're paradigms, if you will. And I brought that word up this morning. A paradigm. What do we expect of life? What do our core beliefs really are? And that pattern of thinking, our lives reflect it. They do. I know for myself, when I had my early life in relationships was a complete disaster, to put it bluntly. I had relationship after relationship after relationship that repeated a pattern. It repeated a pattern of me investing wholly in someone who could not possibly love me back or express love in any way. And I did this again and again and again and again. And it was a pattern because I didn't think I was lovable. I didn't think I deserved that. And I know that now. I see my part in it. But I did it again and again and again and again until I grew out of that thinking and developed a new pattern of belief within myself that I do have value and I do deserve to be loved and I am lovable and I can love back too, which comes from self-value, I believe. But we can look at it and see that it is a product of beliefs within ourselves, not our wishes or desires necessarily. Because we can wish or desire something different than what we're living. Anyone ever done that? But our actual thinking, our actual belief systems. In his online blog, a fellow by the name of Noah St. John with the Huffington Post posted this. Your life is a reflection of your thoughts, what I call the thought seeds you plant and give energy to. More precisely, your life is a reflection of the unconscious assumptions you make about life and your relationship to it. For example, if you grew up in an environment where there wasn't much money, you would probably assume that making money is hard, and that's just the way it is. And because you made this assumption unconsciously, you probably wouldn't even realize you're holding on to it in the first place. And that really is how it works. Most of the time, most of our beliefs are unconscious. The neat thing about beliefs that are unconscious that are getting in our way and producing less than what is desired in our life is that we can change them, and we don't need to ferret out what they are to change them. We just need to pump in the new stuff. It's like dripping clear water into a muddy glass of muddy water. Eventually the water becomes clear. So we just keep dribbling in the new stuff, dribbling in the positive thinking, dribbling in the what we wish in an affirmative way, and then it becomes the wholeness in ourselves, and I believe that a new paradigm evolves. So, then there are feelings, of course. Certainly don't have any thoughts without some kind of feeling, as I said, no feelings without some kind of thought. Feelings are very powerful, very powerful. In fact, one of the ministers who was one of my remote teachers, I'll call her. She was very comical and very lively, and she's passed on now. But her name was Helen Street, and she was very colorful. And she used to say, if you pray with energy. You say, and you pray in an affirmative. If you want to say, I'm prosperous, you go, I am prosperous. Affirmations, you go, I am wonderful. You do it with body language and enthusiasm, because that's what makes it work. And she was very colorful about it. A fellow by the name of Eric Butterworth, who's a Unity teacher, he wrote, you are a living magnet, constantly drawing to you the things, the people, and the circumstance that is in accord with your thoughts. It's the preponderance of your thoughts and the ones you back with emotion. You know, if you tamely say, you know, look in the mirror and tamely say, I know I am wonderful, I know I have value, I know I'm God's creation, but then you do some mistake in the kitchen or something and you go, dummy, that has enthusiasm. And I know this because I've done exactly that. Dummy, you stupid, you know, and beat up yourself, that's not. Please don't do that to yourself. You are divine creations. You are all special, wonderful people. And you ought to be giving yourself self-talk that is really building you up. Because if you don't, nobody else is going to do it for you. That I can guarantee. Deepak Chopra said, to think about a thought is to practice not only brain chemistry, but body chemistry. Every thought you have, every idea you entertain sends a chemical message to the core of cellular awareness. Putting attention on a word, which is a symbolic expression of an idea, is therefore magical. It transforms the invisible into the visible. And I could be here for hours telling you stories over the last 30 years of my life where that was proven to me. That developing, putting attention, creating feelings around an idea has evolved into an experience. One of them is sitting here next to me this morning, and it's my husband. Best demonstration of it I have. Given my history, oh my God. Anyway, so I know that someone recently said to me, do you have the courage to walk the streets of your mind? What kind of paradigms do you hold? Do you think that the world is a place where struggle is normal? Because if you do, then struggle is normal for you, and you probably have a lot of it in your life. Do you think that conflict has to be a reality? If you do, it arises for you. Do you think that, I know that I'm thinking of a roommate I had years ago. I had a roommate, I was young at that point, so I got a roommate out of the newspaper. Not a recommended thing. But I got a roommate out of the newspaper, and she welcomed me into her, she had a large apartment, and I was going to co-pay rent with her, and she needed a roommate to defray the rent, because it was a nice place near the beach. And I moved in with her, and she was a lovely person, but she came in every day from work, complaining about the other people who worked with her and how they didn't like her and how they were ganging up on her and talking behind her back. She talked about it incessantly, every single day. She came home miserable. I have no doubt that's what was happening. She focused so much on it, it couldn't be anything else. So eventually she got another job. Guess what? Exact same thing happened. She came home every day. People were talking about me. People don't like me. And again and again and again. And that was long before I was in this kind of spiritual discipline. And I did try to talk to her because it was so evident to me that she was just dwelling on this. How can you make it a positive experience? What can you, so you're not, focusing on it all the time at least, I didn't realize that might change it for her, but I thought maybe she could, because I think she really did react to people on a level that encouraged it. She had to be, if that was her idea walking in. So, do you have the courage to walk the streets of your mind? It's interesting. What's the preponderance of your thinking? What do you think life is? I remember growing up, and I don't know where this came from, because it certainly didn't come from my family, but I used to sit out back by a pond that was in our backyard and feed the fish in the pond, and the dog would be sitting next to me, and the sun would be shining. And I was under a pine tree, and it was lovely, because we lived out in the country. Well, it was country then. It's not country anymore, but it was country then. And I used to think, wow, life is really a neat adventure. I was 6 or 7 or 8, but I thought, life is really a cool adventure, and it's a neat thing. And then I would remember what was in the house, which was not a friendly family for me, and think, they just don't get it. They don't know that. It's amazing how much children know. And I thought that. I really did. I thought life is such an adventure. That never got away from me. I like the song that says, let it be a dance. And the one singing a song. Because that, words just spoken, thoughts without feeling, inject the things you want in thoughts with feeling. So, we can think about how to apply this. I know that Wayne Dyer, I met him once, and he wrote, he actually said in the talk he gave, think of every thought you have as expanding. Ooh, expanding and getting bigger and becoming a thing. Whoa, that would limit how I think. I mean, that would change how I think. So, and Viktor Frankl, of course, who was a man who lived in the concentration camps, and he was the only member of his family who survived and came out, and he wrote books. And he said, when we are no longer able to change the situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And I think in the state the world is today, we are challenged to change ourselves. And move, and be the light. Be the light of love. Be the light of compassion. Be that light that beacon that draws people to you, that draws people into that awareness of it is good, it is all good, and it can be good. We can look at the areas of life and consider this idea. We can look at relationships and see how our relationships are going, and see what we believe about relationships, and if that is mirrored back to us in any way. Because I bet we will find that it is. We can look at finances and money. What do you believe about money? Do you believe money is corrupting? Do you believe that it's more virtuous not to have money than to have money? Some people do. Or do you believe money is a good thing, so I can spread goodness all around and share it? And what about career and work? That's sometimes tricky. I know that I made a decision some time back, a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, 10 years ago maybe, that I was no longer going to accept struggle or conflict in my workplace. I was going to accept harmony. And I had a paradigm in my mind from someone I'd worked with as a contractor that was a really good relationship where they valued me and asked my opinion about stuff and all of that. And then when that went away, that I was challenged to recreate that. And honestly, I was drawn into a situation where I am really respected and my work is really valued. And there has been conflict in the environment on occasion, but it has never been involved me directly. I've been the mediator and the healer of it a lot of times. So I like being that kind of light around me. And a co-minister of mine, Reverend McGilchrist, wrote a book called Think Again. Kind of similar to our topic here, You've Got Another Thing Coming. And she says, we are each free to believe, think, whatever we want. We do have that freedom. Even Viktor Frankl in the concentration camps realized that they can control my body, they can do whatever. And Gandhi said this when he was arrested. He said, you can imprison me, you can control me, but you will never take my thinking. So we are each free to believe, think, whatever we want, to be happy and fulfilled or unhappy and empty. We are all part of an interconnected universal experience. We are connected. A multitude of occurrences will always be happening around us. What we think about what is will make all the difference. It will make the difference in what we choose to think and what we choose to do. And I think that's powerful. So, the choice is ours to make. The choice is definitely ours to make. And I know that Catherine Ponder in the Millionaire Joshua book she wrote said, the world you live in is the exact record of your thoughts. If you do not like the world you live in, then you do not like your thoughts. An uplifted mind is a magnet for all the good things of the universe to hasten to you, whereas a depressed, anxious, critical, resentful state of mind becomes a magnet for trouble to fly to you. The choice is up to you. And the choice is up to us. We can cultivate peaceful, loving thoughts, and we can envision a world that is a safe, positive, helpful place for ourselves and for everyone. We can picture that and envision it. In doing so, we will help it become exactly that. Whatever we are moved to do to help it along, we will help it by thinking good thoughts and positive thoughts and having seriously positive visions about the evolution of the world. Because Albert Einstein said there are only two ways to live your life. One is though everything's a miracle, and one is though nothing is a miracle. Everything is a miracle. It's a miracle that I'm standing before you breathing, that my food automatically digests, that if I cut myself, it heals. It's a miracle. The last time I stood before you, I had one eye operated on for my vision, for cataract removal. I now have both eyes done. And I do have 20/20 vision in distance without any corrective lenses now.
Awesome.
It is awesome. 8 minutes per eye. It's awesome. It is awesome. We live in a time when that can be done. It's really awesome. And Colleen Gilchrist went on in her book and said, we are always just one thought away from peace, clarity, happiness, and right action. When you find yourself angry and confused, fighting an unfriendly universe, you can remind yourself that you are the thinker, not the thought. Many times, just acknowledging yourself as the thinker of thoughts will release you from the grip of negativity. Because once your mind is released, it is free to experience a new thought, a better thought. And that's it. We can only think one thought at a time. One of the 5 core beliefs in the Unity Fellowship, and I belong to a Unity church now, is thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. It is up to each of us which thoughts we want to entertain and invest ourselves in our emotions. These thoughts form the tapestry of our lives. And it helps that pea soup of race consciousness, human consciousness that we are a part of, to elevate it as well. So I invite you to practice thinking what you want in your life as opposed to thinking about what is wrong with your life and what you don't want. And you'll have a much better experience, I promise you. Let's give ourselves the gift of a better thought. It's time. It's time now. So, what will your next thought be? Thank you.